Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. We talk to people all the time that when we go to meet them, their house just feels like more of a burden. So today we're going to talk about that and maybe some signs when you can see that that's coming and that maybe your house isn't serving you as well as it could.
Yeah, it sneaks up on people, I think, because, you just have that, you live with that status quo, and all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, okay, this is too much. But it's been being too much for a long time, and you just don't realize it.
Yeah. I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jody Roscoe.
And we're just going to dive into, what that burden might start to look like well before it's a huge problem. So you can recognize those signs and then do what we always advocate for, is being a little bit dreamy on how to make things better and simpler and easier, what that might look like for you, and do it well ahead of a crisis-imposed quick time frame.
Yeah. I think that there's different categories in ways that the house can feel like a burden. It can feel like a burden in money, in time,
maintenance,
in energy, safety. And then sometimes, it just doesn't work anymore for your identity of who you are. So we'll talk about all of those pieces today. And I think that we have a friend who says things happen slowly and then suddenly, right? And
yes.
And that is exactly what happens, I think, for people's homes when they become a burden to them. It's slowly not working, and then suddenly it really isn't
just
working.
really doesn't, to a point you have no other options but to do something.
So we don't want it to come to a crisis place. As always, we say that all the time. We want you guys to recognize what's happening as it's happening, see the signs, and then make some decisions while you can and when there's not any crisis happening.
Yeah, and then leaving space to enjoy what's on the other side
for sure.
of those decisions.
Yes, for sure. So let's talk about the financial flags first. So some of that is maintenance and repair costs. They can creep up, and we see this a lot where people get to a point where they are overwhelmed with their home and maintenance becomes a problem. Like they have not maintained things, which is different than updating, right? So when we're saying maintenance, we're saying the roof may be leaking, the windows might not be good anymore, the HVAC system may be a problem.
When we're seeing clients that have been in their homes for 20, 30, 40 years, just the lifespan of all of those major mechanical systems, you're going to hit that once, maybe twice,
maybe
three times
yeah.
for some of them through all of those years. And so it's either, that money that's coming up in that cycle that okay, it's been 15 years since we did the roof, we're going to have to do that. And how do we afford, that to keep everything functioning well? Or you have spent that money several times over, and that has been an expense that you've done, but those major chunks just cycle through. We can't choose not to.
Yeah, and when you go to sell your house, your agent is going to ask you the age of all of that stuff. So kind of keep up on what that is and know what the lifetime of it is. If you're 15 years into a roof, even if it's a 30-year roof, that's halfway through it, and it's 30 years based on certain things. So if you've had weather damage or things like that, it can be not 30 years, even though it's a 30-year roof. But if you're at 20 years with it, you're getting close to the end of it. So know what that cost might be, and maybe you can say, okay, that's too much. I want to go ahead and move because I know that's coming, and I don't want to be the one that is working through it. So, and deferred maintenance, that usually happens when you've gotten to a place where the house really is too much for you to handle. We see lots of houses that have no deferred maintenance. They might not be updated, but the people who are living there are really great about getting their furnace serviced every 6 months. And if something's happening with the roof, they're getting that repaired, very much keeping on top of the things that need to happen to keep the house in good working order. And then updates or something else on top of it. So
I think we see that often when people were doing that smaller maintenance themselves and are handy and were able to keep up on a lot of those small things. And then as, your health and things slow down and you're just not quite as able to, that's when that slowly builds up and you don't realize how many things have been left deferred and not done that you may have used to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it's much more of a bigger project that you need, that money, back to the financial, to call in the outside vendors to do that.
Yeah, and roofs are, $15,000, more maybe, depending on what your house looks like. HVAC systems are, $10,000, $12,000, depending on what that looks like. Even water heaters are, $12,000 to $2,000, depending on what that. So even littler ones, can cost. It can add up. And then I think we do stuff like we live with things that we shouldn't live with, like that powder room bathroom sink drips, and just kind of things that are going to be a problem if you're going to sell your property, that just need to be addressed.
Yeah, it across the board, and I've done this myself too, we've talked about it, but you live with something that you're going to have to do before you sell anyway, and it's like, why didn't I do that long ago to just enjoy the benefits of that small inconvenience not existing?
Yeah. So, and then there's stuff that is like weekly or monthly stuff that is in the cost of a home. Heating the house, all of that. Lawn care can be, $50 to $80 a week. We're in the Midwest, so we only do that part of the year. But some areas are doing that all the time. Some areas don't. But lawn care for sure is something that can add up. Gutter cleaning, house cleaning if you have to pay somebody to because the house is too big, or those things that are weekly, just maintenance things of the house.
I think when people start to investigate maybe senior living communities or a condo that might have a condo fee monthly, and it feels like sticker shock a little bit because the cost might feel not like downsizing, because the cost doesn't always, but if you really line item out all of the services or vendors you're paying for that might not be a necessity in that new situation, and really add all of that up into your monthly living expenses, it may not look so drastically different for what you don't have to find outside resources to help with. And
you aren't managing it.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's also nice. And then, there's opportunities, there's hidden opportunities costs. So if you have all of your equity, if your home's paid off or mostly paid off, then you have lots of equity in your house that you could be using to do something else. And so it's not really draining resources, but it's also not letting you use the resources that in a way that you could use them. So taxes can be, higher depending on what your property looks like. Kind of little hidden costs there.
Yeah.
Utilities, taxes. I mean, if you have a bigger house and you only live in a few rooms of it, but you're paying to heat the whole house.
Yeah, heat and cool and all of those things.
So that's kind of finances, just things to think about.
Yeah. So physical and safety flags, taking a look at some of those that you might, not notice until they become a bigger problem. But back to maintaining the house itself, doing the yard work and heavy lifting, snow shoveling. We're in the midst of snow here in the Midwest the last few weeks. And, I just this week talked with several people that should not have been shoveling their own driveways, and they're telling us how, well, I didn't have another option. And they were out, we had 12 inches of snow in our area, and they were out shoveling because they didn't have a plan ahead of time, and that's the situation they're in. So thinking ahead and making sure you're physically keeping yourself safe and healthy by not bringing on additional injuries or health crises by doing things that you shouldn't be doing any longer. Climbing ladders to clean gutters or to reach things inside. Making sure that your day-to-day doesn't make those things necessities because of where you're living. Stairs, that's a big one.
Yeah, I think that yard work. So this is one of the ones I feel like people notice more than they notice some of the other things. I think sometimes they don't notice that maintenance isn't happening because, again, you just live with something and you don't pay attention to it. And then you just stop seeing it. It's like you go kind of blind around it. So they don't see that as much. But I do feel like when we go and talk to people, they'll say, I just can't do all those garden beds anymore. I just can't do that yard work anymore. It's just too hard. Those kind of things. Or the stairs are getting to be too much for me. Taking laundry up and down the stairs if you have a 2-story home and your laundry's, not on the floor where your bedrooms are and all of that. I think those are the things. And when we're talking about stairs, safety risk, falls are the number one cause of injuries in adults over 65. And 50% of those falls happen near the stairs or the bathrooms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making sure that...
and I think in bathrooms is because you're going at night, like you're,
Yeah, or wet floors, things like that. Looking around. We've done an episode about preparing your home to age in place, and addresses a lot of tips on some of those, making your home safer with, handrails where you need them, or just making bathrooms and other areas, getting rid of tripping hazards. So that's a great episode to go back and take a listen to. But the first step of that is noticing that things are more difficult, or noticing that you've tripped on the same rug a couple times, and taking those steps to change your situation completely, or start with, a smaller step of just kind of
adding grab bars in the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you are thinking, oh, okay, I go down the stairs in the morning and I need to make sure I have all the stuff that I need because I don't really want to go up and down them. That's a key. Just starting to feel intimidated by going up and down them, more than a couple times a day. If your laundry's located on a different floor, maybe in a basement, or just even downstairs if your bedroom's upstairs. If you don't feel safe taking your groceries in, sometimes there's steps from the garage to the house, or the outside steps, just doing everyday tasks of carrying things that feel heavy and feels like it's like a long walk, or stairs, or whatever that is. Those are the kind of things, if you're starting to feel like that, now's the time to start thinking about what are we going to do to change that.
Yeah, laundry is such a big one. If that laundry is not on the floor where the clothes are, where you're having to take baskets up and down, we see that often. We've seen some, DIY solutions for getting that basket up and down, and we don't want to see you having to live like that. There's ways to just get to that next place and have, just a life that's so much easier on your day-to-day. And that's the way to start recognizing what pieces need to be eased up.
And just listening to your self-talk, if your anxiety is up about what happens if the roof leaks? What am I going to do about that? Or, what happens if I have to shovel snow, or things like that? What happens if something breaks and I'm here by myself and I can't get on a ladder and fix it? Or, whatever those things are, or I don't have the capability of fixing it. It stops feeling like, a safe place to be, and it starts feeling, fragile, or like you feeling comfortable about it.
Yeah, if it feels like a burden to just meet your own daily needs, that's not the way we would want you to be living. You know, how can that be changed so that you're just getting joy out of your day
Yeah.
and not feeling burdened by just the tasks of getting the household things done throughout the day?
I think the physical section is probably one of the most, like, you really need to come up with a different plan, because that one, the next section is time and energy, and I think that's more like lifestyle, and so
Yeah.
I think it's very important, but it's not as serious to me. Like, those are
Yeah.
serious ones where you could actually, like, injure yourself and change your life in a way.
Yeah.
So section 3 would be then time and energy. So basically, like, your house just takes more time than you want to give. Like, maybe you can still do all of the beds and, you know, all of that, but you just don't want to because you want to be watching your grandkids, you know, do something, or sports, or, you know, whatever. Or you don't want to be cleaning 3 floors of a house or 2 floors of a house, or whatever that looks like. You could do it. It's not that you physically can't. You just don't want to spend your time doing it anymore.
Yeah, I think, you know, from my own experience growing, you know, having kids grow up in the house, yeah, of course they're kids. You don't get them to do their chores all the time when you want to, but there's just more people there helping with, you know, whatever chores you give them to do, or their own rooms or bathrooms, or, you know, helping outside with the yard stuff. And then when you still have the same amount of square footage and the same amount of yard, but it's reduced, you know, the people aren't there to help out and do it together, or to do some of those chores. Maybe your partner has different health issues than you do, and more burden is falling on you, let alone layering in any amount of caretaking you're doing for someone else. It just becomes different. It's not, you know, it's the same house, but it's working differently for your time and your energy.
Yeah. And then those deferred maintenance tasks just feel like, oh my gosh, that's just never ending. And again, not that you can't do them, touching up paint, deep cleaning things, you know, caulking, sealing, patching, you know, whatever, those things that just have to be done. It just kind of turns into an ongoing stress for you.
Yeah.
And you just know it needs to be done, but you just don't have the time to do it, or you feel like that's an overwhelming amount of time that it would take. And so those are kind of, you catch yourself saying, like, I'm too busy to do that. I want to be doing other things than taking care of the house or the size of the house.
Yeah. Those words you said are so important, that low grade stress. It's a silent, somewhat small little feeling, but the amount of weight it is on your mindset and your energy is, you know, triple what you feel like it should be. It's nagging at you 24 hours a day.
And we have science that backs that up about how not good it is for your brain health to have, you know, either clutter or deferred things that you haven't done, or all of that, where it's in your brain and you know it needs to be done, but you just can't get yourself there for whatever reason. It does take up energy. It takes your energy away.
Yeah, and produces more cortisol in women when you're dealing
Stress.
with that, and that stress, and just can really truly cause legitimate health issues just from these stressors that are putting that kind of layer on top of everything else.
So think about, this is back to, you know, our first step, getting dreamy, right? Like, what brings you joy? I mean, what would you rather be doing? Would you rather be traveling or volunteering or hanging out with your grandkids? Or, you know, what is it? Is there hobbies that you like to do? I mean, would you rather do your hobby than deep clean the basement? You know, like, what is it that you would rather be doing?
Yes, I would.
Right. And bringing you joy instead of bringing you anxiety. And so if that is, you know, if you can write those things down and it's not an equal balance, then maybe it's time to find a different place so that you can spend more time in that happy place in your brain, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the fourth thing is the emotional and mental load. So your home starts to feel, it kind of goes with time, but your home starts to feel more like a to-do list. Like, it doesn't feel calm when you walk in. When you walk in, it feels like, oh, there's all this mess, or there's all this
Yeah.
things, or this is difficult for me, or you just mentally it feels overwhelming. Visually it could feel overwhelming, which then back to the cortisol, back to the stress and all of that. That is something that is actually really bad for your health. You don't think so, but like if you get to a place that isn't like that, you'll be like, wow,
So much easier.
yeah.
Yeah, and if things are just taking a little bit longer than they used to, that to-do list is real, but it just never gets as cleared as it used to, because each item takes a little bit longer, and so you're carrying a little bit more each day, and you're never getting to the end of that list.
Right. And so, maybe the living spaces of your house, they just don't match your lifestyle anymore. And what we see a lot is what happens is people will just start living in like 2 or 3 rooms, right? They'll have their bedroom and their living room and their kitchen and maybe a little like eat-in area, and they just kind of start living in those rooms. And so the dining room maybe becomes a storage room, or, like the other rooms stop getting used, especially guest rooms, or upstairs rooms where the kids used to be, and all of that. There's just so much empty space that's not being used in the house. Still needs to be dealt with and cleaned and all of that stuff, but it doesn't feel lived in.
Yeah.
And so that means really the house has outlived its purpose for you in your life and how you're living it, right? And so I think people don't think about that. They just think it's my house and, this is where I live. And they aren't really thinking about if it's working for me or what does my life look now. And it totally worked when you had kids there in those bedrooms and all of that stuff. So it was a bad decision or a bad house or anything. It's just a different time now.
Yeah, a lot of finished basements with big, rec areas and, maybe a bar area and all the entertainment areas in a basement. And, we'll talk to homeowners when we're touring the house with them, and they're like, well, I haven't been down there in months.
Right.
And, but they're paying to heat and cool it. And you really do want to be down there checking on it, making sure there's no water coming in or a problem that needs addressed, but they're not using it.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to thinking about what your life is today, and it is the house serving your life today and what you would want. So we also get people who just get very nostalgic, and sometimes that nostalgia turns into guilt.
Yeah.
They just feel like there's responsibility and pressure and guilt, and I need to keep these things. And if I moved, like, where would these things go if I was in a smaller place? And, that was mom's, and I just should keep it. And doesn't even mean I like it, just that I should keep it, you know?
We talk so often about change being hard, and I think we all feel like that joy can't change. And so we get locked in on what brought us joy, and then we just want to recreate that, holidays and traditions and the way things always were. And it's really, I think, for all of us, a struggle sometimes to realize that you can have those memories of those moments, but there is joy and fun and happiness to be found in different ways. You don't have to be locked into recreating that same situation for you to find those emotions.
Yeah.
And we see people just being so locked into, well, we did this here at the house, and so if I don't have that, I won't be happy. And it really is choosing that new path. That's easier.
And choosing to be happy in the new path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people find that they are. Like, it's just that they're afraid they won't be.
Afraid to take the leap.
Yeah, because they can't see it. They can't see what that could look like, and they know what the old looks like. But sometimes you're grasping onto the old when it can't even be there anymore. And I I feel that with my mom and my grandma are gone, and Christmas was always at my grandma's house, and we don't have that house anymore, and sometimes it takes a little time to get to the next place, but it's still joy. Like, it's just different, and we can create some different traditions and some different things that we do, and things do change whether we want them to or not. And so sometimes we're trying too hard to hold on to what actually can't even be there anymore.
Yeah, the change is happening even though we're fighting against it, and so it just makes us unhappy instead of, like you said, choosing to be happy.
Embracing something new. Fighting against something causes pain. Embracing something new makes it better.
Yeah.
So, and then that someday stress people will have emotionally, like someday, like, oh my gosh, either someday I have to clean all this up and deal with it, or I'm leaving it to my kids to do that. And some people are like, yep, my kids are going to do it. And as the kid, I'm going to say, please don't do that. But some people really worry about that. Oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to have to do it. However, I'm not doing it. Right.
Yeah. It's always that, if we see that if one generation had to deal with all of their parents' stuff, they're more hypervigilant. Like, I don't want to do that to my kids too.
Yeah.
And then the flip-flop of, well, it'll be fine.
My kids will just throw it all away or handle it or whatever they say. They just get like, well, it'll be fine, and they'll handle it. And
or there's I want you to handle it all, and don't you dare throw any of it away.
Yeah.
Don't do that one.
Yeah. So there's an emotional burden worrying about what the future will look like and who's going to have to handle it, you or your kids or whoever's going to have to handle it in the future.
Yeah. So lifestyle and identity flags, this is a big one. They're all similar. They're all intertwined.
They are intertwined for sure.
They're very intertwined, but sometimes, we get locked into our home. We want it to give you more freedom, not restrict it. So it's back to leaving room for your hobbies, for who you want to be. And if your home is that burden that's keeping you just like, well, I have more to do today at home, I have more to do today at home, you're keeping yourself from that life, of who you could be out in the world. Yeah,
you're feeling stuck by, like, maybe I can't go because I have to, that lawn needs to be mowed, and I don't, or whatever needs to happen, maintenance needs to happen. You feel tethered to it, or you worry about the house if it's empty. You don't want to travel because you're just worried things could happen. It takes too much effort to leave. It just seems like there's a lot to do to get the house ready to leave, or then the house is owning you more than you're owning the house. Yeah, distance, depending on where your house is located. If it's not close by to all the things that you want to do, a longer drive might be harder, and so you're locked into not doing things because getting there is hard. So that can affect your social interactions and the things that you might want to participate in that you can't any longer because driving further is harder, or driving at all is harder. Having someone to come pick you up is out of the way. All of those things can tie you into being home much more than maybe you want to be. Yeah. So if that stuff isn't working, then maybe it's time to make a change. So I think, again, this whole episode really would be helped by that first step of thinking about just, logistically, is it working for you in the life that you have now or want to have in the future? If your life is changing, maybe you're in a place where your kids are going off to college or have just gone off to college, and now you're trying to decide, is this what I want or not? Maybe you've been in the house longer than that, and it's been working great, and now it just feels like it isn't. But I think trying to figure out what you want your future to look like, and then taking an honest look about whether the house is going to work for that future. Yeah, who am I becoming, and is this house supporting that future me? Yep. So you don't have to have all of these signs. You just, some of them, and they'll kind of turn into a pattern, and some of it might be fine, and some of it might be like, yeah, this just really isn't working. So it's just not, and it's not giving up things. Again, like we really want that whole thought process about downsizing is not like, well, I just can't live here anymore because it's too much for me, or, whatever. It's like, hey, I want to do this, this, and this in my future, and this house is going to hold me back, hold me down, whatever, and be excited about what that future looks like and not feel like it's something that's being taken away from you, or your memories are going to be taken away, because they're not. We moved from a house that we had lived in for 25 years and had our kids there, and I was concerned about that. I was like, is that going to be bad? And I still have all my memories in that house. I just don't live there anymore, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm not, wringing my hands and thinking, oh gosh, I wish I was in that house again. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, it really is. I have the same situation of being in a house for 20 years where I raised my kids, and I'm not in that house anymore. And it truly is okay. And I think we hear that from so many people that we help move, that they just wish they had done it sooner, and they're thriving. And
and it can bring back your energy. If you are really feeling mired in under all of your stuff, or in a place that is too big, is not working for you, you can get so much more energy back into your life by choosing to make a move and letting go of some of that stuff that you might be buried under.
Yeah, so some ways to start noticing those red flags and exploring some options. Really, the first thing to do, reach out to us.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we help people with this all the time, and nothing is a commitment to a move tomorrow. It's just starting to explore, what could that look like, and what do I want that to look like, and what's the path and the timeline to get you there.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, okay, this home isn't really working, but I'm not sure where I would go or what I would want, those are normal questions, and you really can't get the answers to them without having, talking to a real estate agent and having them show you some condos, show you some, smaller ranch homes. Like, and if you're at the end of that, you're like, okay, that's not going to work for me, I'm going to make this house work, or whatever. It's okay, because you just have to have the information. And so, reach out to us. We can help you if you're in our area, or connect you with somebody who's great in anywhere in the country that can help you kind of just walk down that path a little and help you be more proactive of thinking what that could look like.
Yeah, exploring the cost difference between staying or moving, touring communities early to see if that's something in your future and how far down the line that is. There's never any pressure talking to us or taking tours, going to, workshops and classes at different places to see them, talking to your friends, or exploring with your adult kids, those conversations, just getting started and having them early and over time.
Yeah.
Moving into those conversations.
Yeah. So just getting more information, and then you can make better decisions once you have more information.
Yeah. And then on the home front, just starting with small areas. We've had lots of episodes on ways to get started, small places to start to clear that mental load of, what am I going to do with all of this stuff? And I hate dealing with all of this stuff, and look how much it's burdening me. So just getting started in small ways at home, so that when you make those other decisions for what your next step looks like, you've already gotten started. You're already down the road. Yeah.
And I would just say, just start really listening to your inner voice and your level of frustration around whatever's happening inside your house.
Yeah. So anything that we can do to help ease that burden, please visit our website, downsizingroadmap.com. We would love to talk with you, to help you, to connect you with someone if you're not in our area. We've got people all over the country that can help, and we look forward to talking to you soon. We'll be back next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.